So yeah, I go by AJ, Aaron Johnson. I'm vice president of in our product management team. I'm joined by Nadia Duke-Boone, who's a senior product manager. And so today, we have the awesome opportunity of representing over 320 engineers, product designers, product managers, and folks in operations back in our headquarters in Portland, across San Francisco. I think we have folks in Phoenix. We have, I think, 1 or 2 people here in London, and also a big team in Barcelona. So it's a privilege for us to be here. Thank you all for coming. And I want to start the day by first trying to make some sort of emotional connection with you. So I know it's upstage, you have no idea who I am, I have no idea who you are, but I did spend a year here living in England in 2014, and during that time I grew to love bacon sandwiches. I did have the opportunity to go learn how the English love to trek, and so I did the Scafell, Nevis, Snowdon three-peak challenge thing in 24 hours, which was super fun. 4 days after I got here, I got my first speeding ticket, which was awesome. And actually, 2 months after I got back home to the U.S., I got another ticket. Literally my last day in England, I got a ticket for being in the bus lane or something. So maybe I'm a horrible driver, but it's great to be here. More seriously, though, both Nadia and I have spent a bunch of time as engineers, writing Java code, deploying applications, being on call, and actually for the last 5 years of my career, prior to New Relic, I used New Relic exclusively. So today's really fun. It's a little bit like Christmas. We get to show you all the cool stuff that all of the teams have been building over the last couple months. We get to open a couple new presents today, and then also talk about some of the things that we're going to do in the future. But before I talk about all that stuff, I want to reinforce, when you buy New Relic, you are buying something that changes all the time. You get a SaaS platform that you don't have to deploy anything on, and things are coming. This is actually a list, this is an animated GIF of all the releases that we've done over the past year. And so there's actually a really great presentation that's going to be happening this afternoon by Matthew Flaming and Beth Long, where they're going to talk about how we've actually been able to process 1.5 billion events with the 45 engineering teams and the 320 folks in engineering. It's an awesome presentation. I encourage you to go take a look at that. So I'm going to start by going through every one of these, every one of the sections that Darren laid out in our platform. And as part of that, I wanted to pause, because I heard there's a bunch of folks here that have never really used New Relic and don't know a lot about New Relic. And I think there's some interesting, very, very different things about how we serve you, our customers. And so I want to pause here and look at especially the top 3 on the left, the events, metrics, and dashboards that we have. And as part of that, I want to tell a story, or I want you to engage with me in a story, if you will. So you don't have to close your eyes, because that'd be kind of weird. But I want everybody to imagine, because I'm pretty sure this has happened to every one of you. I want you all to imagine that we are all a software company, and we're doing maybe $50 million a year in revenue. And inevitably, you've all been in the situation where somebody in sales, God bless our sales folks, somebody in sales goes off and finds some gigantic deal. Maybe it's another $20 million deal. It's going to change the dynamics of our company. And so, inevitably, if it's Bruno comes back to the executive team. I've got a $20 million deal. It's going to be awesome. And immediately, as part of this sales deal, they say, well, we're going to do a POC for 30 days. In order to get this $20 million deal, you've got to prove that your stuff works. So now the eye of Sauron goes to, in our group, it would be Jim Gochi, the head of product and engineering. How are you going to guarantee that everything is going to be perfect? And at this point, you have a choice if you're the software company. If you've chosen to have a software solution that does just metrics, you can go and stand up a bunch of dashboards, and you can say, well, we'll look at average response time and throughput, and we'll have all the alerting conditions, and everything will be great. If, however, you've chosen to use New Relic, one of the things you're going to be able to do is go back to your executive team and say, I have a dashboard that has everything about this particular company's activity. I can see every request that comes from, let's say, the CEO of this big company that we're selling to. I can see all the requests that come from all the people that work for him or her. And we can say, errors, we can look at page views, we can look at mobile, we can look at everything. And that's a very different mindset. That's a very different level of like a security blanket almost that you can come back to your companies with. So when you have that dashboard, one of the first things you're going to need, if I can build, one of the first things you're going to want is you're going to want to present a dashboard to probably your CEO. You're coming back to the CEO and you're saying, I've got a dashboard, and I'm going to give you data from a bunch of different teams that show you that everything is stable, and not just that everything's stable, but here's actually the throughput for this particular company that we're trying to sell to. And so you can see there's a bunch of things that we've developed over the last and deployed in our dashboarding platform over the last couple weeks and months. The big one that we're working on that is going to be in beta here in a couple weeks is what we're calling company-wide dashboards, where you're going to be able to bring data from an account where maybe you have your mobile team or your browser team or your backend team, and combine that with data from another account. And to be able to create a company-wide dashboard, something that you could hand to the executive team and say, here's a full picture of all of our teams across, potentially we have customers that have hundreds of accounts. Here's a single dashboard that shows all that data. And so that hopefully that paints the picture a little bit of how New Relic is different from just your average metrics that you're getting that doesn't have any detail about your individual customers. One of the other changes that we're seeing a lot of is the move to DevOps. So Darren mentioned a couple things about how companies are moving to DevOps, and there's a great book out. Gene Kim has written a great book, the Phoenix Project, and then he also wrote one recently called the DevOps Handbook, I believe. And if you try and get a definition of what DevOps is, I think it means like 60 different things to 60 different people. I picked out a couple really interesting quotes that I like to, that help me when I think about it. But one is, when you move to DevOps, you're turning what used to be kind of there's an operations team and they were very point and click and there wasn't a lot of engineering, there was very little code. And instead you're saying, all of you are engineers now, all of you are writing code and everything has to be automated. And the second thing about the DevOps movement is that this notion that there is pervasive telemetry. So you're monitoring everything. Everything you can possibly get data about, you are monitoring. And when you combine those two things, that everything has to be automated and you're getting tons of data, you need really, really powerful alerting capabilities. You need the ability to go, for instance, see if you have apps that are showing up all the time. So DevOps movement, it makes it really easy to go spin up new containers. You're doing microservices. You need the ability to apply an alert condition and have it automatically applied to anything that comes up. So you're not flying blind. And so dynamic targeting is available today. It has been actually out for a couple weeks. And the second one that's really interesting for us is baseline alerting. So if you have hundreds of microservices or hundreds of apps, you don't necessarily know how those apps, what the threshold should be for any one of these things. You need something that comes along beside you, and you can say, I just want to know if this thing becomes abnormal. I want you to tell me if, based on, if it's 200 milliseconds is the average response time, or if it's 5 seconds. Can I get a glass of water too? I'm sorry. And so our baseline alerting, thank you. Our baseline alerting has been, we launched at FutureStack last year. It's been in the hands of a couple hundred customers. It was originally just 10 metrics. In the last week or two, we actually have it for all metrics now. And then the last one, NERCL alerting. NERCL alerting is really interesting. So let's go back to this deal. We're a software company. We want to be able to see if any single thing happens for this company that we're going to sell into. So I want an alert because I'm the head. If anything goes wrong, I want to know about it immediately. We can actually have an alert today. You can write a query, and so you can get at, I want to know if anybody at that company that we're selling into has a single error at all. I want to get a notification. And that's what NERCL alerting is, and that's actually available for all of our customers as of last week. We're talking, going through this presentation last night, and in the US, I guess it was in the 80s, I think, that Reese's peanut butter cups came out, and their commercial was about putting chocolate in your peanut butter. And apparently here in England, you don't like the peanut butter very much. And so I think maybe a good one would be like clotted creams and scones. That's a good combination together where it's better, right? It turns out that some of these features, when you combine them, create some really, really interesting things. So Naj is actually going to demo one of the things that we're working on that should be out here in a couple weeks.
Yeah. So I'm going to talk about NERCL baseline alerts, which is kind of a mouthful, so I'm going to break it down for you. So alerts, AJ just covered. And baseline alerts, so alerts, the core set of what our alerts do for you is you pick something that you care about and you say, hey, New Relic, tell me if this changes, right? So I want if my throughput suddenly goes down, below 5, or my response time goes over 10 seconds, I want to know, send me an alert through, we have about, I don't know, a dozen notification channels that you can select. But then what you told us was, well, that's great, but you know what, you have all of our data, why don't you tell me what's normal? And so that's what baseline alerts, we built baseline alerts for, was to look at your data, and using some actually super cool, really fancy math, we look at the history of that data, at that metric, what the what's been going on recently, what the trending is, and then actually what the historical pattern is too. If there's a cyclical pattern to that data, we can actually recognize that. And that's where the power of baseline alerts really comes in. So the idea of a baseline alert, I think they have two real sweet spots. One is where you just don't know what normal is, so just tell me if it goes up kind of off the rails. Like baseline alerts will do that. And the other thing that they're really powerful and useful for is when you have some sort of pattern that's very cyclical. And I'll show you an example of that and how that works. But just remember that behind the scenes, what's really going on with a baseline alert is a lot of math looking at the history of your data to predict the future. So that's pretty cool. And then NRQL, or we often call it NERQL, is the new Relic query language. And that's the language, if you haven't seen it, it's a lot like SQL, that lets you get at all that amazing transaction and event data that AJ was talking about. So what we did then, again, you told us, you said, we like the alerts, we like the baseline alerts, could you please give us NERQL baseline alerts? And so we are, and this will be out next month. So what you're seeing here is an alert setup screen. And I've gone in, I said I want to set up an NRQL or a NERQL alert, but I want to do it as a baseline. And now I just start typing in something. So maybe what I care about is response time. But you know what? I don't just want response time. Sorry, I'm not used to British keyboards, and things are just a little bit different. And this is live software, people. This is real. All right, let's do duration. Let's not do a capital. Let's do, there we go. Sorry. Autocomplete, live demo. Look at that. All right. So what this is doing is saying, there. All right. What this is doing is saying, hands off the keyboard, let it think, all right. Let me just minimize my help here, because I don't need it. I'm a professional. All right, so what this is showing me now is for the last 7 days. OK, I'm sorry. The demon of demos. Let me do this one more time. So this is how we build credibility, by showing you that this is not just a bunch of slides we put together last night. If you want to fill, AJ, feel free to.
No, I think it's amazing to just watch somebody else struggle for a little bit. Wait, I don't feel so bad.
All right, you believe me now? Here we go. So what you're seeing now, what I've said is, hey, what I really want to know is, percentile is just a function that says 95% of my transactions are returning it under this time. And you can see here, what you're seeing in that blue is the actual, and behind it is a dotted line that's showing you what our math/AI engine, if you want to get fancy, is predicting. And you can see this is a web store. It has a really classic kind of daily pattern, right? So a static alert might not be your best choice here, because your 10 o'clock Monday morning versus your 10 o'clock Saturday night might have really different behaviors. And I don't want to get woken up if things are just slow on a Saturday night because I'm worried about my Monday mornings. I want something that's going to adapt to match what my customer behavior is, so that I only get notified when it really is important. And then what this slider does is let us set with confidence a threshold based on sort of how worried I am, how much I want to know when some things are going. And down here at the bottom, hopefully you can see them in the back, are little red triangles that are showing me what alerts I would have actually received based on this historical data. So it's letting me really fine-tune and pick the level that I care about in order to get an alert. And then finally, because this is NRQL, I can just keep typing query. So I can say, where name, let's say, equals order. Because maybe what I really care about are not all of my transactions, but just those transactions where someone's making an order. So now you can see I don't have that real kind of cyclical Monday through Friday, people come in, they go home. But what I do have is actually something that's fairly constant, that I'm getting orders at a certain rate, probably around 2 or 3. So you know what, I can set an alert that's like, just tell me if maybe things go really high because maybe I had a sale that went really crazy, or some marketing person posted an ad I didn't know about and suddenly my website's getting hammered. So this will tell me if something just about my orders is getting is unusual. And again, I can just keep adding to this SQL statement or NRCL statement and decorating it with the very specific transaction events that I care about. So that's NRCL baseline alerts, combining all 3 of the things we love about alerts into one cool feature, coming out next month.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you so much, Nadia, and for struggling through that. So if you allow me to go back to the story real quick. So one of the things that I left out that's really, really important is, if I said, hey, we're going to go get, if I do this presentation back to the executive team, we're going to be super confident that everything's going to be awesome. We're going to nail this deal. Bruno's going to get a giant commission check, and he's going to take me on the sales trip next year, right? Cool. All right. So one of the things, though, that is different about New Relic is we're not just on the application side or on the infrastructure side. We actually have a heavy presence on the browser and on the mobile side. And so one of the things that if I was doing this presentation back to the executive team, I would want to say, not only will I see every single error on the server side and the performance on the server side, but I'll be able to show you every single error that happens in the browser or on your mobile device, and the person where it happened, the precise time. So when, let's say, if it was the CEO of this company we're trying to sell to, if he or she got an error, we could see immediately. And because we're building some pretty interesting tools inside of our mobile and our browser products, if I can go forward, we could actually say, not only did we see the error, but we saw exactly what they did prior to that. And we actually just released last week the record breadcrumb API. So now if our tool out of the box doesn't give you what you need on the mobile device to say precisely what steps they were going through, you can actually annotate and add things. So let's just play it back, right? CEO maybe of this company we're trying to sell to, he or she gets some sort of error. Instead of it then us getting a phone call a week later, like, yeah, we tried out your stuff, it crashed for the CEO. That would not be good. We could say proactively, hey, we could call them up and say, hey, we saw you had an error. We saw you had maybe it crashed. We know precisely what you were doing. We've already fixed it and deployed it. That's dramatically different than what you'll get with just standard metrics. There's a wide variety of other things that are both our browser, our synthetics, and our mobile teams have done over the past couple weeks, and I don't have time to cover them all now. And at the end, we actually have a URL you can go and click on to see all this different stuff. We were talking about this one last night. So two big products, our APM product and our infrastructure product. Big, huge changes with cloud and microservices and containers. I was trying to make it feel like it was raining microservices and containers, because that's what we hear from you, our customers, that everything is moving to microservices, that you're moving everything to containers, or you're moving everything to cloud. And with that comes a whole bunch of complexity. If you read that DevOps handbook that Gene Kim wrote, one of the things he said, which I think is spot on, is that as you move from these big monoliths down to a bunch of microservices and cloud and containers, that it really becomes harder for a single person to be able to see and understand the entire system. And so you need tools that help you see the system as a whole, both from how things are connected, but how also they're organized. And you also need tools that maybe in your APM product that are specifically built to help with things like microservices, where instead of it being a Java class talking to another class, talking to another class, you have a Java class that's making a remote call somewhere. And maybe your pages, for instance, are composed of things that come from 10 different microservices. So you're doing a lot of async transactions. So on the APM side, one of the things that we've done, and there's a lot of things that we've done, but one of the things that we recently rolled out, it was a couple weeks ago, was the Java Agent API. And the Java Agent API gives you the ability to go in for anything that we don't automatically understand about your async transactions. You can go in and you can stitch together and say, this is async, this is async. And then when you look at it in the New Relic interface, you'll see all those async transactions lined up perfectly. You can track them. So you can say, it hit this app, it hit this app, it hit this app. You can see all of that. So the Java Agent API is a really awesome improvement, and that'll be coming to all the other language agents over time. Bless you. And that's just one of a couple things, right? Like our APM product, there's 7 different language agent teams. All of them are deploying things all the time. It's like Christmas. If you're using our APM product, there's always changes that are happening. And our infrastructure product, Darren mentioned it's, I think, our fastest growing product at this point. We have hundreds and hundreds of customers that have purchased it and are using infrastructure successfully. And the team, since the launch at FutureStack last year, hasn't stopped. A lot of the features that have been requested are around alerting. Over the last couple of weeks, we've released host not reporting and process running alerts. And that's just the beginning. So one of the things, or a couple of the things that we want to talk about today are some new things that are launching. So we at launch had 13 AWS integrations where we're getting data from CloudWatch. We're getting the configuration data from CloudWatch, not just the metrics. And we can paint you a nice dashboard that says, hey, here's your ELBs, or here's your S3. Over the last couple months, the team has been working on some additional ones. There's 5 new ones that we're launching today. And I won't go into the details because I don't want to steal Greg Unrein and Alberto Gomez's session later today where they're going to talk about all the details about infrastructure. And the second thing that we're announcing and launching today is the infrastructure SDK. So one of the things that we've seen quite a bit is that you have applications that you've developed, applications that you know about and you know how to fix. And you put an APM agent on those because if something goes wrong, you're going to fix it. You want to understand the internals of it. There's a lot of applications, though, that you don't actually understand. There are things like Cassandra or Nginx or HA proxy, and you don't necessarily need the internals of how those work, but you want the health metrics. And so our infrastructure agent is hopefully installed on, like everybody has it installed on every one of their hosts today, right? Not so much? Okay. So you got to get it out there on all of your hosts. And once you do, though, this SDK will allow you to go and reach out to things that are running on that host and gather health data via JMX, or if it needs to be pushed to you via StatsD. But so you'll be able to monitor things and include them on service maps, things like HA proxy or Nginx or Cassandra. And then the last bit here that we want to talk about are the bottom part of our platform. This is the part that everybody relies on. So you rely on this for security, you rely on this for intelligence. You want, if you have a couple thousand applications and a couple hundred hosts, or 1,000 hosts, more than that, you need hopefully somebody to be telling you like what to look at, rather than you having to do all the work. But the first thing is, we, as you move to DevOps, as you move to breaking the walls down between ops and dev, as you move to, I think trust is one of the words that comes up quite a bit. You want to have all of your teams being able to see all of your data. But with that, we have controls today that provide role-based access control. We're going to be rolling out over the next couple of weeks some very advanced controls so that you can have all of your teams see all of the data, but maybe you want some of the teams only to be set up, alert conditions for this, or to be able to edit synthetics policies for that. So we're going to be rolling out advanced RBAC controls here in a couple of weeks. I've seen the demos. Every one of the product teams is actually done with their integrations at this point, and we're weeks away from being able to launch this. Last thing, so Seymour, if you watched our San Francisco FutureStack, you saw likely Lou did a demo of Seymour. And Seymour is really 2 things, for those of you that either haven't read about it or haven't seen it. Seymour is a machine learning feed that looks at what you are, the applications you're looking at, the infrastructure, browser, whatever you're looking at, and it generates a list of cards based on what you do, on your title, what you look at, that are recommendations. There are things that we are spotting that you didn't have an alert policy for, and they are using a lot of the baseline intelligence and a variety of other tools to go and basically help you do your job. So the idea is, maybe once a week, maybe every day, you pop in a new Relic. Today, there's nothing that really says, hey, this is what's happened. With Seymour, the idea is that you'll be able to say, we'll be able to tell you, hopefully, really helpful information about your apps or your browsers or your APM. So that's Christmas. There's a lot of stuff there. I hope that was really interesting. No keynote would be really awesome, though, without one additional thing, right? So if you look at remember that slide with the containers and the cloud and the microservices all kind of raining down, we see this in our own environment. We have hundreds and hundreds of hosts. In fact, we'll look at them in a little bit. And it's really helpful to be able to see all that information on a service map. Service map shows you how things are connected, where the data is flowing in between there. And that's really helpful maybe during a debugging session. You're up in the middle of the night, you need to solve, why is this particular thing? Like, what's connected to it? Can I see maybe something doubled or tripled its throughput? A service map will show you that. But a lot of what we hear from our customers is they want to be able to see on their wall, hey, I'm going to lunch, or I come in the morning. I want to be able to see, is my stuff healthy? at a glance. And today what we see when we go and visit customers as product managers, inevitably we see the application overview page, and it has like 20 apps on it. But our customers these days have, and literally there's some customers that have 10,000 applications. And you need tools that give you a very, very high density view of your applications and the underlying hosts, or the inverse. If you're more on the operations side, maybe it's your hosts and the applications that are on there. So I'm thrilled to be able to announce today a tool that we're calling Health Maps. This is actually, Nadia is actually going to do a demo of this right now, and then we'll conclude.
All right. You'll be happy to know I don't need to type for this demo. I'm happy to know that anyway. So yeah, we're super excited about Health Maps. I think they fit really well with everything we were talking about with alerts, which really push that information to you. We have another capability we call Service Maps, which is a topological view of services and how they relate to each other. I think this is a great complement, because this is, as AJ was saying, a really high-density, information-rich view, built to put on walls, built to be that thing that you look at first thing in the morning and last thing at night. So what you're seeing here is a health map for a large system. And again, this is all generated dynamically from your APM and your infrastructure data. So each of these boxes that we're calling cards represents an application, and then the little boxes underneath are the hosts. So right now I can see which apps are unhappy, which hosts are unhappy, and also that relationship, right? Because sometimes I've got, like here I've got an app that's not happy, but the hosts seem fine. So already I can start to make decisions, right? Or you can make those decisions. Who do I call? Who do I triage to? If this is in your network operations center or something, right there you've got some details around what to do and where to start troubleshooting. If I hover over, I'm going to get the alerts information related to that, so I don't have to click to get a bit more data. And if I click through, it will take me right to the APM or infrastructure page that gives me all my normal details around that. But what we saw as we started rolling this out to you in our beta was customers wanted even more density. So we gave you more options to narrow in the focus and turn off the metrics and turn off the host names. And now, oh wait, I do have to type. Using Command minus, I can just zoom out and start to build a dashboard if I've got my 50-inch TV up over my, where my team is sitting or in a knock or something. Now I've got this really rich view that's showing me really at a glance kind of what that percentage is. And it's giving you confidence to know what you should be paying attention to and where things are fine. So this is an app-centric view. But we've also given you another view that's sort of host out, if you will. So maybe my job, what I really care about, are monitoring servers. Maybe I'm responsible for servers for a bunch of, that are running a bunch of containers, that are dealing with scalable infrastructure. This will give me that view. And again, it's all dynamically generated. This number, as I've been practicing this demo, this number keeps changing because this is real live data. I didn't have to do anything. I didn't have to configure something or fill out a form or update a monitoring software somewhere. It's just telling me based on the data we already have from your agents, here's what's going on in your world, and here's the relationship between your apps and your hosts. So now when I'm looking at this host and it is unhappy, I can see, all right, one app's unhappy, but the rest seem to be looking fine. And that's giving me information to help know what to do next. And then finally, one last thing, if I don't want to look at all 2,232 hosts, I can just go ahead and pick something. Let's say, let's stick with the Docker theme. So here are a bunch of staging Docker hosts running a bunch of different apps, and I can filter that down to just see the ones that I care about. And again, I've got all the same controls, really rich, lots of information in one screen, and some choices you can make about how to use it. Health maps we think are going to be really exciting. The customers, as you've been using this in our beta, are giving us great feedback. When's this coming out, AJ?
So, thanks, Nadia. So, any Oprah fans in the house? I know I'm a huge Oprah fan. Not really, I don't actually watch TV. So there was an amazing slide that said it's available today. And so actually, Health Maps is available today. It's actually available on your mobile device as well. So there's a mobile integration. You can see almost the exact same thing that we saw up on screen, except on your mobile device. And yeah, thanks for having us, and looking forward to a great day.